Hey, folks, we've got a really special guest with us today, Steve Alpert. Steve painted the gorgeous portrait of Lincoln that is on my wall behind me, or on my bookshelf behind me right now. And we wanted to welcome him today because he is in partnership with Lincoln Project. We have a number of these now that are going to be in our gear store that I think, captures the spirit of Lincoln in a way that's beautiful and emotional. And Steve, I just wanted to welcome you and say hi and talk through what your creative process was on this, where this came out of, and learn a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. And
absolutely,
I love the Lincoln Project. I remember when Lincoln Project came to be, I felt like the house was on fire, and all of a sudden I knew the fire department was on the way.
Well, we do our best in the fire department role, but you started painting military scenes and portraits some time ago. But tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background and how you became a painter and portraitist as you went through your career arc.
Portraits are relatively new for me, like maybe the last 3 or 4 years, and okay. Now I see them as the ultimate challenge to bring somebody actually alive in paint. I have to understand that until they're alive, I'm struggling, and once I make them alive, they have to tell their story. In my mind, I want to see their triumph. I want to see their tragedy. I just finished a series of 12 women veterans, large portraits, all different service branches, diversity. It's called Proudly She Served. It's a project that we're going to bring to Washington, D.C.,
Wonderful.
Hopefully in the next year or so. And I needed to make these women alive, and that's the challenge. But I started in landscapes. In fact, I started painting when I was 19, but I was a TV producer for 35 years. I did documentaries and documentaries and stuff for corporations and just everything. And in about 1999, I said I need to make a change. I've been doing it for 35 years, and it was time for a change. And my wife said to me, "Well, why don't you go for the painting?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "I mean, make paintings and then sell them." I said, "Well, I never thought about that." And so I did. It was a difficult transition, but I did make the transition. And then in 2003, so I was making landscapes essentially.
Sure.
Going to arts and craft shows on the east end of Long Island in the summertime, and I sold quite a few paintings, like $200, $300, but I'd sell a lot of them. And then in 2003, on November 16th, 2003, my birthday, I read about 2 Black Hawk helicopters that had a midair collision over Mosul. We lost 7 soldiers. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, that gripped me around my throat and my chest. I had visited the Vietnam Veteran Memorial Wall in 1985, and in the summertime, and I had a breakdown there. I collapsed in a little heap of tears and sweat. People stepping over me, walking around me. I don't know how long I was there. That my name was not on that wall. That I had not served in uniform when it was my time. I had a student deferment, and then I became very much against the war. I had wanted to go to West Point as a young teenager. Mm-hmm. With no point of view about anything other than I wanted to be in the military, but it just was not my thing. It was not to be. So when I was so moved by the loss of those 17 soldiers in that accident, I said I have to make a large painting of a Black Hawk helicopter to honor them. What I would do with it, I didn't even think of that. I made this little study, a little 9x12 study, and it was still gleaming wet. And I called a friend of mine, who's a very patriotic fellow, and I said, "You got to come over and see this thing, Jim." He came over and he said, "Well, Steve, this is fantastic." He said, "I have a godson who's graduating Stanford in business school, and I'm going to give this to him as a graduation gift." So he gave me a couple of $100 and he drove away. And as I'm watching him drive away, I thought to myself, wow, this first little painting found its way to a genuine Black Hawk helicopter pilot in the Army. I thought, how crazy is that? It got my attention. Mm-hmm. And I felt like there was a door, and the doorway was open, and I walked through it. And then I started to make, I don't know how many. I just kept on making Black Hawk helicopter paintings, big, small, and my studio walls were filled with them. My wife comes up to the studio and she says, "What the hell's going on up here?" I said, I don't know.
It's used as a helicopter.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do with all these helicopters? I said, I have no idea. It really wasn't until 2007, 4 years later, that I took a trip to the old Walter Reed with two buddies of mine, and I wanted to meet with some young wounded veterans. I had never thanked a Vietnam veteran for his service, if you can imagine that. And I felt terrible about that. And so we met with four young men, two of whom were severely, severely wounded. That was in 2007. I guarantee you those two men now are still suffering from those wounds, guaranteed.
Sure.
And that changed my life. That day changed my life. The day I got married changed my life. And I learned about Fisher House when I was there.
Sure, of course. Absolutely. Great organization.
So a year later, I donated 9 paintings of these helicopters to the Monmouth, New Jersey chapter, fundraising chapter, and we raised $40,000. Every penny went to Fisher House. And then I realized that these paintings were to raise consciousness about soldiers and military, and to raise funds. And then I came across my mission statement, which is making the connection between military and civilians through art. So that became my rallying cry. And I also felt at that time early on that I felt like my little studio window facing north, I felt like a hand come in, like Uncle Sam pointing at me and saying, will you do this? Will you tell these stories? And I said, yes, I will. This is the call I'm going to answer. So I never stopped. And I have stuff in the Pentagon, I'm proud to say, for years now. I have stuff at the Marine Museum in Quantico, Naval War College.
As a guy who worked in the Pentagon for 4 years during the first Bush administration, it is a magnificent art collection. People do not understand the art collection that the Pentagon possesses.
It is vast.
It is enormous. So what led you to paint this portrait of Lincoln? Can you tell us the story behind that?
Sure. A year ago, when things seemed to be falling apart, the election was on its way, I felt like I needed to have a response. I said to myself, what is my response as an artist? You know, I teach art to veterans at Fordham University, and I think about art a lot and the purpose of art and the job of an artist. And I thought to myself, okay, so what is my response to all this insanity that's going on around us? Mm-hmm. And I immediately, without even thinking, I immediately thought of Abraham Lincoln. I think that we see this man as probably the best of us for all the right reasons. And so I purchased a very high quality archival black and white print, and I said I'm going to make a formal portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Well, I still had other commitments, mostly the Proudly She Served series, and I was working on that. And I said, okay, I'm going to put the formal portrait aside, and I just started to take a break. I made a paint sketch without drawing or anything, just a paint sketch to get Lincoln's likeness on a canvas. And I didn't like it too much. There was something wrong about the forehead. I don't know. There was a lot of things that were wrong with it. And I put it aside. And then I painted one background, another background. I didn't like the background. So I just like one of those paintings that just wasn't ready to be done. So I put it aside for a while. Sure. Then the election happened. And then we know what happened after the election. And I said, okay, that's it. So I put the painting back on the easel. And I had some paint left over from one of the women portraits I was doing. And I just spent about a minute and a half moving paint around without thinking too much. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, wow, this is something very unusual. I don't know what this is, but it's done. And I started showing it to friends and they all went insane. And I said, okay. So I wanted to get in touch with the Lincoln Project. I said, this is perfect for the Lincoln Project. And I didn't know anybody. I sent an email to Michael Steele, actually, and on his website. And he sent me a beautiful email back. What a fine gentleman he is. He was very complimentary. I just love Michael. I've been watching him for years and you for years. And I was a WNBC, MSNBC addict for all those years. Thank God I don't have to watch every morning anymore. But I can live again, but I couldn't live it all those years for obvious reasons. And I finally sent a So I said, well, Michael told me he was not involved in the Lincoln Project at that time anymore. I said, okay. So I said, I guess I just have to donate. So I made a donation, and I got an email. It looked like from Steve Schmidt, another brilliant guy who I love listening to all the time. So spot on. And of course, the email was not from Steve. It was from Lincoln Project. And I wrote back. I said, "Dear Steve," and then I guess it was Emily wrote back and said, "Oh no, Steve is not with us. He's coming back." But blah blah blah. So I said, "Oh, now I got a human." So I sent the painting, and a couple of days later, at 8:00 in the morning on a Sunday morning, Emily sends me this email saying, "Oh, we love this. Can we put it in the newsletter?" I said, "How would you like to sell prints?" And the next thing you know, I'm talking to Hunter, and
Sure.
About 6 weeks later, we make a very amicable arrangement to sell the print, and here we are.
So how many prints are we doing here, Steve?
The first run is going to be 250.
Okay,
That'll
great.
be the first.
And those will be in the LP Gear store. I'm so glad. I'm so appreciative, Steve, of your both your commitment to showing the lives of American service members, and also to this amazing partnership we've got with the Lincoln portrait. It really is something we're very delighted by. I think it's really one of the most evocative pieces. It's about to go up in my office. I wanted to make sure we had it up today for the show, and we'll put it up on the screen so the light's a little better. But we're very much appreciative of you, Steve, and we look forward to working with you again on other things. And we're very grateful for all your help on this. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Would love to, Rick. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
Thank you. Great to meet you. Thank you.
Likewise.